everyone, welcome back to the Curious Shelf. You are joining me on a slightly sunny, slightly overcast day in Brussels, but I'm so glad it's dry. We haven't had rain for about a week, thank God. And I'm just really enjoying this kind of like transition into spring. It's been quite cold here, but better than last year. Last year was a bit of a disaster when it comes to spring and summer, so this year a lot better already. And that light just really helps my head. So I'm feeling a little bit better in the last few weeks. Still having some dips up and down, but just getting on with things a day at a time. So on another note, I thought I would do today a review on the Anna K. That's the deck that I worked with in April. This is the Anna K here. I've had this deck since 2020, and even though I'd looked through it so many times, I had never worked through it basically. So I thought April, perfect time. We're going from like that spring, early spring into mid-spring, going from that fiery Aries energy into, and then later on into Taurus. And it just felt like, the kind of like deck that I wanted to work with when it's nice and bright outside. It just feels like a very spring deck to me anyway. So more on that as I go through the deck. Now, this was published in, I think it's 2010. I can't remember, but I think it's published in 2010 by a lady called Anna K. So, well, there you go. And she's the creator, and I haven't got a date here, so that's not great. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can see a date at the front. Let me see. Copyright. It says 2013, so I was wrong there. 2013. And this is the first Llewellyn edition, the third printing that I bought. So my printing is from 2019, but the deck was originally made in 2013. Now, this lady, Anna K, is an Austrian, and I still believe that Anna K resides in Austria. And she started producing this deck, and she started to create the images when she was 13. And I think that she was 14 or 15 when it was like going into completion. So that is very, very young. And for me, when I first saw the deck and I saw the images, I was so impressed, because I was like, at that age to be creating something like this, it's amazing. So yeah, really blown away by it. Going more into the guidebook in a minute. Let me get you the images. Now this box is not, to be quite honest with you, is not fantastic. I do know that there are two editions. There's one that's by Llewellyn, and then there's like the indie version from Anna K herself. I don't have that. I don't know what that's like, the cardstock is like, or the box or anything, but I guess they're probably hopefully very similar. I bought mine from, I think it was at the time Book Depository or Amazon, I can't remember. Like I said, I bought it in 2020. And I think it now retails, must be around the €20 mark, something like that. It's mass market, of course. So quite affordable. And I will now promptly get the cards out. Now, the box on the inside, to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's great. It's got this cardboard thing to help keep this bit in place. But this is definitely a deck that could have been produced in a better box, to be quite honest with you. But putting that aside, this is the deck. Now, I've not edged or modded it in any way. I've just used it straight out of the box, and of course shuffled it. But these are the backs. It has this gorgeous back design, and I do know many people who've trimmed the border, because the border on the other side, you're going to see it in a moment, it's very, you can't see on this one, it's very thin. It's very, very thin. So it's very easy to do a mod job on this one. You can see it better there. It's very easy. It's kind of like about 4-5 millimeters of a border. So if you cut off the border, I don't think it would affect the backs that much. And I know many people have modded this deck. So anyway, let me go straight into the cards, because it gives you the theme here. The theme is what I would depict as very, very medieval. I find the images, it's a Rider-Waite-Smith, before I forget, it's a Rider-Waite-Smith kind of like inspired, basically. It's following the RWS system. But the actual images are just very, very, what I find, bright and simple. And so I really kind of like get drawn into the characters very easily every time I see and work with this deck. So one of the things that really impressed me was this medieval theme, but not overdone, if that makes sense. It's very pretty, it's very delicate, especially this card, look at that, that's beautiful. Very delicate, very calm, and what really kind of like first drew my attention to it was that in these images, I'm going to put these two to the side for a second. In these images, there's not too many symbols. And I think that was one of the things that first caught my eye, was the fact that Anna Kay has been able to show the meaning of the card, but in a very simple manner. For example, here in the Lovers, you don't have too many symbols. You don't have all of a sudden, you know, the snake in here and the angel and another 20 different things. She's just kept it very kind of like straight to the point, and you'll see actually quite a lot of times the landscapes reappearing. So here the wall with the 7 of Rods, and many times I see the walls appearing again and again. Here we have the Page of Swords, but you can see that she's followed a very simple format. And also what I was really struck by was how simple the colors are as well. We see a lot of blues and a lot of yellows in this deck. Less in terms of reds and oranges and greens. I hardly even see very little green actually, except for the leaves every now and then. But what really struck me in this deck was the blues and the yellows and the oranges, the yellows specifically actually. So she's done that very, very well. Kept it very kind of like thematically cohesive. Whenever I see the images, most of the time I see people from the side in this deck. I don't really see them looking on. I don't think I've ever seen any one of them looking on. I see them looking towards the side, looking away. Of course, when they're facing each other in combat, you know, that's something else. But it's a really interesting way of depicting people. The very few times, all the aces, by the way, are illustrated with, as I recall, with a lady. But all of the images have people that are kind of like caught in a moment. That's the best way I can put it. What I really love as well about this deck, which I know some people picked up on, was the faces. I know some people have said that they found the faces to be very, sometimes masculine. I absolutely love the faces because I think that they look real. These look like real people. And for me, this looks like a real medieval deck. I've seen some medieval decks which, honestly, like everybody looks picture perfect and clean, and I don't know how else to put it. They look kind of like out of a magazine. And when I see this deck, it actually looks like a real medieval deck because people come in all shapes and sizes kind of thing. And this deck for me reflects that. It's also got these strange proportions, like, you know, with the arms here. I found that really, really like kind of like striking. And yeah, I just love the deck for its simplicity. It's not a fussy deck. What I also loved about this king, and I think I need to check it with all the kings, but the King of Cups here, right? What I loved was he has all the elements. I know he's the King of Cups. So we have here his cup here, but you've got kind of like this earthiness, and then we've got the fire, so we've got some warmth coming through. And then we've got this kind of like air energy with the flowers, you know? So it's just a deck which has this kind of like, you know, it kind of like, she kind of like makes each of the cards very meaningful. This is good. This is coming up right now. The one thing I did notice about this deck was that it is sometimes very biblical in a strange way. Now, I know that the RWS is biblical as well, but in this one, this particular card did strike me very, very strongly. And this may not then, you know, always sit well with people. For me, it's fine. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't worry me or anything like that. But I know with some people, they'd be like, no, I can't do that. So, because this does really look like coming out of the tomb, kind of like, you know, the whole Easter story. So, yeah, I just wanted to just kind of like draw that as kind of like, you know, it might kind of like disturb someone maybe. So yeah, so I really, really like the deck for its softness. I think it's very European based, so we're not going to see that diversity, just as an FYI. But I think for me, this deck is really kind of like very medieval again, so it makes sense in my mind. What I like is what I see, what I've just mentioned before, in a lot of the pictures, you'll see some of the same scenes coming back again. So the wall keeps coming back. So here, now you've got this, like, you know, he's defending his home, the mountains in the back. Very sad scene. This is so medieval, but so well done. Very sad scene. Yeah, you know, the villagers being sacked, basically. And yeah, and here's that pop of yellow again. So we can see that she's very cohesive in how she makes sure that everything runs together. And I love the Three of Cups in this deck. I love that full bounty, the three fates kind of like together. There's a joyfulness, and I also like the fact that they don't all look the same age. I like the fact that there's kind of like what feels like to me more of a crone energy here, and then there's like mother and maiden. So I really like the fact that it's not all these like body beautiful young women kind of thing. There's kind of it looks like people from the 15th century, to be quite honest with you, and that's the best way I can put it. So it made sense to me. I really like the expressions, you know. I like the way he's holding onto those coins. So this deck, I think, is just amazing in part of the collection, and I am really glad I've got it. I am going to chop the borders off. One thing I have to say is I have to chop these borders off because I don't think they're necessary, and I think that the depictions are very, very clear. So I'm just keeping going through the deck just so you get an idea of all of these images, but I think it's well worth you know, if you want to try something and you just want a very simple RWS card, it's very, what I would say is unthreatening. So in April, when I was working through some things personally, this is a very unthreatening deck for me. It's not very provoking in that sense. And so as I was working through some things separately from this, you know, in terms of mental health, this deck didn't feel like it was competing for attention. It was kind of like just doing its job on the side. I was getting daily messages, but it wasn't kind of like overpowering where I have to sit there with the card and really think, oh my God, I wonder what it's trying to tell me today. So yes, so that was so far, you know, these are the images here. What a beautiful Nine of Pentacles. Let me quickly just talk about the guidebook first and foremost. Next. The guidebook, I have to say one thing, the guidebook is pretty simple. It's kind of like a little white book. You will get with it, and sometimes like a few pages to write on here and make notes if you wanted to, but it is a very, very simple guidebook. I do have to warn. So you might want to use a more complex or in-depth normal tarot book if you wanted to go with this one. What I find really interesting is that because the cards are so simple and easy, if you use like a standard, I don't know, Mary Greer book or I think it's Joanna Bunning book, or one of those books with this deck, it wouldn't be so difficult because it's following RWS basically. So that's the other thing when it comes to the guidebook. I think the guidebook could have, honestly speaking, made smaller, made to fit in with that these cards, and made the whole box more compact. I think they should do that actually, because I think it'd just be easier to store. I'm not someone that buys bags and stuff like that to put the tarot deck in, so I find that the boxes are important to me and helpful. But you know, yeah, so I don't think it's necessary to have that black and white depiction and then just a short text, you know, so I don't find it necessary, but that's just me. And the other thing that I do have to point out, which was kind of like came a bit of a cropper on me, was there is an issue where I saw two cards and I feel that they were mixed up, and it really did kind of like strike me a little bit. So let me find them. And I don't know what happened then, why the illustrator decided to interchange them, but it did strike me. So let me just find them for a second for you, and then I can talk to them properly. Here they are. So I was going to say that this deck would be great for beginners, and I think it still would be, but just to be a bit careful, because in this deck, this is the 10 of Cups, but to me, this looks like the 9 of Cups. Now, I did count it. She does have 10 cups in there, but it really looked like to me like the 9 of Cups. And then this is the 9 of Cups, which to me feels a bit more like should be the 10 of Cups. And then I counted it, and there were 9 cups in this picture. So I personally think, and then I looked at the meanings in the guidebook, and this does correspond to 10 of Cups, and this corresponds to 9 of Cups. So I don't know. So let me just read them out again. Hold on a second. I'll be with you, and let's read out the 9 of Cups, and then we all know for sure what is it trying to convey. Okay, so here is the 9 of Cups. It says here, it means a time of jubilance, of joy, of festivity. It is a time of conviviality, of friendship and carefree ease. This is a beautiful card that not only contains the tiniest warning not to fall into irresponsible excess. The Nine of Cups joy is based on certain external circumstances. And then this is what she's written for the Ten of Cups, which is this. It means the experience of deep contentment of having arrived. It can mean that we have completed an important stage of our development. We feel deep contentment, happiness and harmony. Nothing is wanting. But it says also that, so I don't know. I found actually that for me, traditionally, the Ten of Cups and the Nine of Cups would be the other way around. So, this is just the author's interpretation. So I've got to take it as that. I personally, I'm going to chop off the borders and then I'm going to use them the way I would identify them. Otherwise, it's going to be just too, I don't know how to put it, jarring for me. So that's something I just wanted to flag, that if you're new to tarot, I would be careful just to check that the correspondences are aligned with the original deck. I think the rest are, but it was just there that I got a bit confused. But yeah, it's a great deck. I think it's definitely worth having in your collection. If you like medieval, kind of like that kind of like feeling, it's just very calm and soothing. And I find it a non-fussy deck. So I definitely want to keep this in my collection as just a go-to deck where, I sometimes have it where I don't really want to have something complex. I just want to be able to read very quickly what's going on, what's the pain about, what's the hurt about, or what's the message of this is where you need to go next, and that's about it. And I think that with the borders chopped off, this deck will be very, very versatile in a spread as well. It's a bit too big right now. But yeah, so I think that the Anna Kay is a wonderful deck to work with, and I'm so impressed that these cards were made by somebody when she was 30, I think it's a she, by 13 or the age of 14. I'm so impressed, and I even remember that when I first got the deck, that it takes a certain level of, I think, creativity, maturity, and also just consistency in creating something like this, with the color palettes, with the facial images, with the detail. I love the fact that the wall keeps appearing. It's so medieval in so many ways. And so my experience with the Anna Kay is that it's just a very joyful deck to work with in that sense. Let me look at my notes just in case I've forgotten something. Just to mention that I don't normally right now pair my daily pull decks with an oracle deck, except for a separate exercise that I do. So I didn't have kind of like an oracle deck that I was using with this, but I think it would go with many. And I, like I've mentioned before, I think that this would be a great spring deck for me, a spring summery deck. I think I'd use it less in the autumn because there's so much vibrancy in the colors. And yeah, I think it's just, I think I'm just checking my notes, but I think it's just, a deck delight for sure. And if you are new to tarot, and if you want to, or if you're someone that's new to collecting, that's a better way to put it, and you want to try something very simple, or just to have on your desk, I would definitely recommend giving this deck a try. So on that basis, on the basis of, let me see, oh, look at that Empress here, very voluptuous, beautiful. I'm going to leave you there. Thank you for watching. I'll see if I can do an April roundup. Maybe I can, so I'll try and see if I can do that. But other than that, this was my deck for April, my deep dive. And hopefully you enjoyed this review as much as I made it. I enjoyed making it. I really, really loved and I'm inspired by kind of like things like, the Seven of Pentacles and the emotions this person is showing. So it's a deck that I will be definitely revisiting. So thank you for joining me on the Curated Shelf, and I will see you again soon. Take care now. Bye.